Latency and throughput. The latency is the time to get an action done. It is usually measured in seconds. The throughput is the effective transmission operation rate of a device. It usually measured in operation data volume per second. For instance, the number of transactions per second, the number of bytes per second, and frequently when we use the term bandwidth is to refer to the maximum throughput of a device. Here is an example. If we take the main memory of a computer, its bandwidth, that is the number of bytes it can deliver per second, is based on the kind of technology you use and the frequency it is. So for instance, let's assume 400 megahertz for the DRAM clock. The number of lines, so let's assume 2, for instance, a double rate memory. The number of memory buses, that is the number of interface to the memory. And usually this interface is 64 bits wide. And the number of interface, 2. If I multiply all those numbers, I get 12 gigabytes per second as a maximum memory bandwidth. As you never can get your data faster than that. If I look at the time to get from the main memory to the CPU, it's usually hundreds of cycles. And this is actually extremely slow when you compare to a CPU that can do multiple operations per cycles. That's why we actually introduces caches in order that sometimes the data is served directly by an intermediate memory, and so not to pay the latency cost every time you access memory. Capacity versus capability. Capacity is a throughput problem. This is typically what you want to solve in a data center, doing a lot of search, a lot of operation per second. Capability is a latency problem. You want a task to be done in a short amount of time. And this is the high performance computing problem. And parallel programming has to do with capability. This is where we stand in this course. Okay? But understanding throughput and latency is actually important to understand the performance we're getting and to analyze what to do if those performances are not enough. Here's a question for the in-person class. What is the latency in a processor chip signal? So how long a signal it takes for a signal to go through 10 centimeters. The memory hierarchy, is it solving a latency or a throughput problem, or both? If you have a geostationary satellite, how long does it take to send a message to Earth? Use the command Unix to see what is the internet latency by pigging www.erisa.fr. Why reducing latency is a very hard problem, and what do you do to increase throughput bandwidth? See you in class.